Today we will discuss about Premchand, the great novelist, and his works. Premchand was born on July 31st in 1880 in a village Lamhi near Banaras. His father Ajayab Lal was a clerk in post office and his mother was a very gentle and noble lady. In his childhood, he was getting his education in his own village. At that time, he learnt Persian and Urdu languages from a Maulvi in his own village. Premchand was not his real name. Actually, it was his pen name, and his real name was Dhanpat Rai. When he was studying in the 8th standard, his mother died. After the 2 years of his mother's death, his father married another woman. And in this way, he got a stepmother, and the relation between his stepmother and him was not so good, and we can see that kind of relationship in many of his novels also. When he was married at the age of 15, and it was an arranged marriage which proved to be a disaster for a sensitive boy. And she was bent to ruin his romantic life by quarreling. One day, he happened to meet the headmaster of a missionary school, and that headmaster was in search of a good teacher for his own school. And when he met Premchand, he offered that job to Premchand, and he immediately accepted, and he started teaching there. And after that, he got a government job in Bahraich. After doing some years in Bahraich, he went to Kanpur and stayed there for a long time. During his stay in Kanpur, he started writing, and his first novel was in Urdu, and the name of that novel was Asrar-e-Mabid, which means the mystery of the temple. It was published in a Banaras Urdu weekly from 1903 to 1905. This novel was full of romantic elements, and in 1909, Premchand was appointed as sub-deputy inspector of a school at Mahova. After that, in 1917, came his great novel Seva Sadan, which was followed by a number of novels. In May 1936, Godan was published. It was the apex of his literary genius. In that novel Godan, Premchand concentrates on the problems of poor laborers and farmers, and he completed that novel Godan in 3 years. In that novel, the main protagonist, Hori, represents the suffering Indian peasantry tyrannized through centuries. While he was busy in writing all those novels, we know at that time The freedom movement was also going in India, and he always kept in touch with the contemporary national parties and the freedom struggle also. The mutiny of 1857 had shaken the sensibility of the Indian people, and the thinkers now rose from the slumbers of the idealism. It paved the way for the modernism in Indian social and literary life. But still, in rural India, there were still many problems like untouchability, rigid caste systems, communal feelings, and orthodox way of life. As a realist and a progressive writer, Premchand has portrayed the variegated shades of Indian life and the problems of Indian peasantry. He is deeply attached to the Indian people. He can indeed be called the first literary exponent of Indian peasantry in Indian literature. We know that Premchand wrote many novels. At that time, he also saw that in Indian society, different kinds of problems were there. And he took one after another those problems and presented those problems in his own novels. For example, in Karambhumi, his novel Karambhumi, the Harijan community is shown rising against all oppressions, and they engaged themselves in a satyagraha because they are denied entry into the temples. At that time, in different rural areas and in different parts of India also, that the Harijan community was not allowed to enter the temple. It was a very big problem for the society, and he presented that problem in his novel Karambhumi. In his another novel Premasram, Premchand portrays the deplorable and pathetic plight of the poor farmers. In novels like Karambhumi, Godan and Premasram, the main focus is on the poor economic condition of the farmers who are exploited by the rich landlords and the money lenders. So it was also one of the major problems of at that time, that in villages, the poor people and the farmers, they took the money from the money lenders and the rich peoples, and those laborers and the farmers were exploited by those rich people and the money lenders. So he presented that problem in those novels, and in another novel, Kaya Kalp, Premchand touches upon a very sensitive issue of Hindu-Muslim communal classes. And another novel, Seva Sadan, which was written in 1918. He has given a lively and a very realistic portrayal of the middle class life, which is full of conflicts and the tension. In that novel, he presented the life of a common middle class people, and we know that the life of a common man, particularly middle class people, is full of conflict and tensions, and he has presented that story in that novel Seva Sadan. In that novel, he highlights the problem of Indian women also in Orthodox society. He attacks the social evils like dowry system, forced marriages, the untold agony of the widows, and the miserable life of prostitutes. So these are the some great problems of at that time, and in that he presented all these problems in his novels. There is another novel, Pratigya, which was written in 1929. In that novel, he has portrayed the deplorable condition of the widows. It was also a major problem at that time, the life of the widows, the problems they used to face in their life, particularly widows. He has shown how a widow has to suffer in a ruthless orthodox system, and if he is without any issue, the condition become worse for her. So, in that novel, he has presented the problems of a widow. There is another novel, Nirmala, which was published in 1923. It is another powerful novel by Premchand. It contains the pathetic life story of Nirmala, which exposes the hollowness of the contemporary Hindu society. There is another novel, Gaban. Premchand gives a realistic portrayal of the conflict-torn personality of Ramnath, who is in attempt to fulfill the demands of his wife, is trapped in debt, and he has to play the foul game. So this is the story of that novel. So in the end, we find that Premchand has endowed him with human weaknesses as well as with goodness and virtues. He is robbed and wronged, yet he never loses his temper and faith in the essential goodness of mankind. Even in his last moment, he forgives those who had wronged him. That is the good qualities of Premchand which he had in his life. In the end, Premchand died on October 8 in 1936. That is a very brief description about the life of Premchand and his works. Thank you.